Hey, welcome to this video. Now, if you're here because property investing is something that you've been considering, maybe you've been thinking about it for a while, but the actual taking action part is something that you're struggling with, has been holding you back. What I've done is I've put together this free training video showing you exactly how to get started in property investing for new property investors without taking huge risks. Okay, so before I jump into that, a little bit about me. I started with property with limited funds. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I jumped straight in. I took action and literally went from one property to now owning a portfolio of 9 cash flowing properties valued over £1.3 million. I've generated over £500,000 in equity from these properties. They also generate between £4,000 and £5,000 monthly income every month, and it provides financial freedom, so we don't have to worry about working 9 to 5, covering the bills and mortgage expenses and things like that. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact roadmap I'd follow if I was starting from scratch today. Okay, now the key thing to take from this video is, or the main focal point, what I'm going to be getting across to you that will hopefully help you to get started, is action over content. Now, what I mean by this is I would never have got to this point here if I hadn't have taken action in the first place. So many people become overwhelmed, or they watch too much content. It just takes over everything, and they feel that watching more content, consuming more content is helping, when in reality, content doesn't create results, action does. So if you follow the steps in this video, I'm going to break it down into a really easy format for you to follow. Then hopefully by the end of this video, you will be in a much better position to actually implement the things you have learned and start investing in property and generating this better life for yourself. That it was probably the reason why you want to start in property in the first place. So the reason most people never buy their first investment property is not because they don't have enough money, not because they don't know enough. It's because they spend years consuming content and they never actually take action. And the biggest mistakes that I see from people that I speak to on a weekly basis is they're watching endless YouTube videos. Okay? It makes them feel good about themselves, but it doesn't produce anything. They follow dozens of property influencers on social media, and all this does is creates conflicting advice. Okay, they're waiting for the perfect market conditions or the housing market to crash. Now, this is just an excuse not to get started. Okay, it's an easy excuse. Also, they're thinking that one more course will make them ready, when in reality, you can never be ready. You have to commit, you have to take action without being perfect. So the key points in this video is knowledge doesn't remove risk. Preparation, a clear plan, and knowing the possible outcomes is what removes risk. And that's what we're going to do in this video, is to remove those risks so that you can actually get started and make this happen. Or even better, having somebody who's already done it holding your hand. So if you really want to remove the risks and get your first 4 properties, there's a link somewhere in my description explaining how we do that. So you can check that out if you wish to do so. Now, there are 5 stages that you should do to remove risk and to get started. And these are preparation, education, financial readiness, deal analysis, and action. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through each one of these so that you know exactly what to do and why these things will help you to progress and get you to that first elusive property. Now, the mistake a lot of people make is they spend way too much time on this one here, education, and don't do any of the others, or they jump straight to action without doing any of the previous steps, but then they get stuck amongst all the confusion when it comes to taking action and actually securing and buying a property. So what we want to do is we want to just go through each one of these quickly, lay out a clear plan, a clear strategy. Then when you get to the last one, which is action, you'll be in a much better place. It won't feel risky, you won't be fearful, and you can go and make that happen. So stage 1, preparation. Why do you want to invest in property? This is one of the first things that I ask people when I jump on calls on a daily basis, because different goals require different strategies. Okay, so depending on what you want to achieve with property, depending on the time frame, how much capital you have, where you live, how much time you have, don't have, your work situation, all of these things, make a big difference when it comes to the strategy that you will adopt. So you need to think, what is it you want out of property? Is it extra income? Do you want to quit your job? Do you want to take more holidays? Do you want to build a pension for the future? Do you want to leave your kids a lot of wealth? Do you want to give yourself another job? Get your hands dirty and start refurbing properties? Does that make you happy? Okay, you've got to think and write down exactly what you want out of property. Now, for me, it's pretty much all of these things here. Okay, they work hand in hand. So by building my property portfolio, I now have extra income. I don't have to work for anybody because the income from the properties cover that. Certainly have more holidays every year. If you've watched me on Instagram, you'll see us enjoying family holidays quite often. Pension, I'd say over £1 million worth of property, that's only going to go up in value. That's a pretty solid form of pension, and obviously a lot of wealth there to hand down to my children. So the first stage is preparation. Understand exactly what it is that you want out of property, and trust me, this will massively help going forward into next stages and removing any doubts. So stage 2, education. Now, education makes you feel good. Okay, so the more content you consume, the more you learn, the more books you read, the more videos you watch, it's like a full sense of achievement. You feel like you're making progress, when in fact, nothing's actually happening. Yes, you are learning more. Yes, you're getting a better understanding, but your bank balance is still the same. You haven't gained any assets. So you need to get over the fact that learning isn't always the best thing to do. Okay. So when it comes to learning, what I would say is learn the basics, learn what you need to know. Okay. So that's how mortgages work, how cash flow works, how to analyze a deal. And then you can ignore all of the other things that don't apply to you. So if you've got capital to invest and you want to own property, there's no need to go and learn about rent to rent. Okay, you don't need to learn about advanced tax structures, complex creative strategies, endless market predictions, and is the housing market going to crash in 4 weeks' time, or what's happening to interest rates. You do not need to overcomplicate things with all this information. You just need to learn the very basics, understand your numbers, understand how things work on a basic level, and that will be enough to get started. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to start, you just have to start. Now, a good phrase to go off is learn enough to make your first decision, not every decision you'll ever make. Okay, so you need to be in a position where getting that first property is the first and absolute next right thing to do without fucking it up, basically. So once you've got that nailed down, you can move to stage 3. Now, financial readiness, this is where most of the fear comes from. So if you're currently have doubts, if you're afraid of messing up, if you're afraid of losing the money that you invest, it's the money that you worked hard for, then it's financial readiness that you need to fix. So the things that I would suggest for you to do in this section is check your credit score and work on that. Deposit, make sure you have enough deposit as well as contingency funds. You don't want to invest every single penny of your money into property, because that will make you feel more anxious. It will just heighten the fear factor. So always have some contingency funds saved back. This will make it feel safer. Okay. Mortgage readiness. You need to put yourself in a good position where you're able to get a mortgage, and you need to be in a position where you understand what that involves and how to be accepted for a mortgage, what kind of things that you need to, or the things you need to position yourself to be in a good situation where you're not going to get knocked back for a mortgage application. Also, income stability. This means your income, your wage, your living, make sure it's consistent, make sure you are comfortable with where you're at, what you're earning, before diving into something that could put you at more risk. Okay, so a lot of risk reduction happens before buying anything. And that's the whole sort of point, the whole key to this video is reducing your risk, reducing your fear factor before you commit and buy your first buy to let. Now, the safest investment is one where you've prepared for things to go wrong. Now, what I mean by this is if you know the different outcomes that can arise from your first investment, then you can prepare, you can put yourself in a better position knowing that, okay, if it goes well, this is where I'll be. If it doesn't go so well, it's okay because I've got this plan into place here. You've got to put yourself in these positions where you know all of the different outcomes, because if you don't know the outcome of something, you are far, far less likely to jump in and make it happen. You wouldn't dive into a pool blindfolded because you don't know what you're going to hit. So it's kind of a similar thing here. Now, once you've got your financial situation under control and you're comfortable and happy with everything where that is, then you can move on to stage 4, which is deal analysis. Now, this is where a lot of people do not have any confidence in. Okay, so it's really important that you understand these things to build that confidence. Most of the new property investors that I work with, this is the part that we provide most of the help with, because they just don't feel confident doing it themselves, and they feel like if they are going to mess up, this is the section, this is the part of the whole thing that they're going to get wrong. Okay, so things to understand are the purchase price. Are you overpaying? Are you underpaying? Understand deposits, understand how much rent you can achieve, understand what costs are involved on a monthly and yearly basis. These are your outgoings. Understand cash flow. So for example, if you go through the figures and the property, the rent doesn't cover the mortgage costs and the outgoings added together, then clearly it's not a good deal. If your return on investment on the property is about the same as you could get in a bank account or in the stocks and shares account, then again, probably not worth it. Your property investment should be achieving much higher. So it's important that you understand what to do when analysing deals, because if there's any doubt in this part, that's enough to hold you back. That's enough to keep you in the position that you're already in. And I have no doubt that you've probably already looked at properties. You've probably already been through Rightmove. You've even gone through the numbers, tried to stack a deal, and there was something in there that has prevented you from moving forward with that, because maybe there's something you weren't sure of. So it's really important to nail this down and get a good understanding of it. Now, you don't need to analyze thousands of deals. You need to analyze a few, okay? And bad deals will just become obvious once you know the numbers. Now, moving on to stage 5, the last one, the most important one, the one that probably the reason you're still here watching this is action, because you haven't taken any action. And as I said at the start, you will never get anywhere by not taking any action, not taking any form of risk. Now, the whole idea of this training video is to prepare you and to put you in a position where your risk level drops from here down to here. Okay, and by doing these 5 stages, hopefully that will massively help. Now, your first offer, your first property matters more than another 50 hours of content, another 6 months watching YouTube videos or following people on Instagram. So active things that you should be doing is speaking to a mortgage broker, viewing properties, analysing a few deals each week, even joining network events if you think that might help. It's not for everybody, that's fine. Even putting in offers on property, because It's not as easy as simply calling the agent, oh, I'd like to offer 120,000 on this house. Okay, there are extra things that come with it that just put you in a better position. So if you can work on these things and implement action, do physical things like picking up the phone and calling the estate agent. It might feel like stepping out your comfort zone, but these are the things you're going to have to do if you want to, get to the place that I'm currently at, or whatever your goals may be. Action is the most important thing. So your next moves, what are they? Firstly, implement the above. Go through those stages, even write it down because that will massively help. Then reach out to us if you feel you need more help. If you feel like you can't do this on your own, then we've helped hundreds of new property investors to set up, structure things correctly, lay out a clear strategy, have a clear plan, and actually implement that and get their first property within 60 to 90 days, then go on to scale that into more properties. And remember, you do not need perfect timing, you do not need perfect knowledge, you do not need perfect confidence. You only need a plan, preparation, education, and action. So, hope you enjoyed this free training video. There's a link below if you need any more help. And if you have any questions, just drop them below.